16. Reproduction. Asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction is a process resulting in the production of genetically identical offspring from one parent. Asexual reproduction occurs without gametes or fertilization. Fungi can reproduce asexually by single-celled spores. Many flowering plants reproduce asexually as well as sexually. Plants reproduce asexually when some of stem that grows above the ground takes root at the nodes and produces new plants. The couchgrass rhizome is a horizontal stem that grows below the ground and sends up shoots from its nodes. Bulbs are condensed shoots with circular fleshy leaves. Bulb-forming plants reproduce asexually from lateral buds. Rhizomes, corms, bulbs, and taproots may store food, which is used to speed up early growth. A clone is an organism or cell, or group of organisms or cells, produced asexually from a single parent. Whole plants can be produced from single-cell or small pieces of tissue. Asexual reproduction produces genetically identical individuals. Artificial propagation from, for example, cuttings, preserves the desirable characteristics of a crop plant, gives a uniform crop and a stable variety. Asexual reproduction is fast and keeps the characteristics of the organism the same from one generation to the next, but does not result in variation to cope with environmental change. Sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction is a process involving the fusion of the nuclei of two gametes to form a zygote and the production of offspring that are genetically different from each other. The male gamete is small and mobile. The female gamete is larger and not often mobile. Fertilization is the fusion of gametes' nuclei. The nuclei of gametes are haploid and the nucleus of the zygote is diploid. There are advantages and disadvantages of asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction in plants. Flowers contain the reproductive organs of plants. The stamens are the male organs. They produce pollen grains, which contain the male gamete. The carpels are the female organs. They produce ovules, which contain the female gamete and will form the seeds. The flowers of most plant species contain male and female organs. A few species have unisexual flowers. Pollination is the transfer of pollen grains from an anther to a stigma. Fertilization occurs when a pollen nucleus fuses with a nucleus in an ovule. Self-pollination is the transfer of pollen grains from the anther of a flower to the stigma of the same flower or different flower on the same plant. Cross-pollination is the transfer of pollen grains from the anther of a flower to the stigma of a flower on a different plant of the same species. Self-pollination and cross-pollination have implications to a population. Pollination may be carried out by insects or by the wind. Flowers that are pollinated by insects are usually brightly colored and have nectar, fragrance, less and sticky pollens large as well, anthers and stigma inside the flower. IGCSE and O-Level Smart Biology M. Rashid Chatha 030046104457. Flowers that are pollinated by the wind are usually small and green. Their stigmas and anthers hang outside the flower where they are exposed to air movements. Their pollens are small, lightweight, many and non-sticky. Fertilization occurs when a pollen tube grows from a pollen grain into the ovary and up to an ovule. The pollen nucleus passes down the tube and fuses with the ovule nucleus. After fertilization, the ovary grows rapidly to become a fruit and the ovules become seeds. Germination is influenced by temperature and the amount of water and oxygen available. Sexual reproduction in humans. The male human reproductive system consists of testes, scrotum, sperm ducts, prostate gland, urethra, and penis. Each has a role in reproduction. The female human reproductive system consists of ovaries, oviducts, uterus, cervix, and vagina. Each has a role in reproduction. The male reproductive cells, gametes, are sperm. They are produced in tests and expelled through the urethra and penis during mating. The female reproductive cells, gametes, are ova, eggs. They are produced in the ovaries. One is released each month. If sperm are present, the ovum may be fertilized as it passes down the oviduct to the uterus. Eggs and sperm are different in size, structure, mobility, and numbers produced. Sperm and eggs have special features to adapt them for their functions. Fertilization is the fusion of the nuclei from a sperm and an egg cell. The fertilized ovum, zygote, forms an embryo and becomes embedded in the lining of the uterus. The embryo gets its food and oxygen from its mother. The embryo's blood is pumped through blood vessels in the umbilical cord to the placenta, which is attached to the uterus lining. The placenta and umbilical cord are involved in exchange of materials between the mother and fetus. Some pathogens and toxins can pass across the placenta and affect the fetus. Sexual hormones in humans at puberty, the testes and ovaries start to produce mature gametes and the secondary sexual characteristics develop. The hormones testosterone and estrogen control the development and regulation of secondary sexual characteristics during puberty. Each month, the uterus lining thickens up in readiness to receive a fertilized ovum. If an ovum is not fertilized, the lining and some blood are lost through the vagina. This is menstruation. Estrogen and progesterone are secreted by endocrine glands. Sexually transmitted disease is a sexually transmitted infection. STI is an infection that is transmitted through sexual contact. HIV is a pathogen that causes an STI. This may lead to AIDS. HIV can be transmitted in a number of ways like blood transfusion, sexual contact with infected person, and sharing needle for injection, etc. The spread of STIs can be controlled by educating the people and by the use of condom and avoiding drugs abuse by injection. Life cycles of organisms can involve sexual or asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction produces genetically identical offspring from one parent. It can be used for producing plant cuttings and in micropropagation of plants. IGCSE and O-Level Smart Biology M. Rashid Chatter 030046100457. Sexual reproduction is the process involving the fusion of haploid nuclei of gametes to produce offspring. The flower is the reproductive organ of a plant. It contains the male stamens, anther and filament, and female carpels, stigma, style and ovary. Insect-pollinated flowers have large conspicuous petals, nectar, and scent to attract insects. Their stigmas and anthers are arranged to facilitate the transfer of pollen between the follower and the body of an insect, and they have large, sticky pollen grains. Wind-pollinated flowers are small and inconspicuous and lack colorful petals, nectar, and scent. They have feathery stigmas and stamens that hang outside the flower, and small, light pollen grains. Pollination is the transfer of pollen from the anther of a plant to the stigma of the same plant, self-pollination, or another plant, cross-pollination. The male nucleus from the pollen grain is transferred to the female nucleus in the ovule by means of a pollen tube that grows down from the stigma, through the style and ovary. Following fertilization of the female nucleus by the male nucleus, the contents of the ovule becomes a seed and the ovary becomes a fruit. The embryo plant consists of a radicle, root, plumule, shoot, and seed leaves, cotyledons. The testa is the seed coat. The fruit wall, pericarp, provides protection to the seed. Seed dispersal by wind or animals provides a means for plants to colonize new areas. Seeds require a suitable temperature, water, and oxygen for germination. Enzymes are involved in the mobilization of food reserves in seeds for germination. In the male reproductive system, sperm are produced in the testes inside the scrotum, and leaves the testes through the sperm ducts and urethra. The seminal vesicles and prostate gland add fluids to the sperms to form semen. The penis transfers semen to the vagina during sexual intercourse. In the female reproductive system, the ovaries release an egg into the oviduct once a month. The egg travels down the oviduct towards the uterus. The development of secondary sex characteristics is controlled by testosterone from the testes in males, and by estrogen from the ovaries in females. The menstrual cycle coordinates changes in the uterus lining with ovulation and implantation of the embryo. If sexual intercourse has occurred, fertilization may take place in the oviduct. The zygote develops into an embryo, which implants in the lining of the uterus. The amniotic sac protects the developing fetus. The placenta allows the exchange of materials between the blood of the mother and the blood of the fetus. A pregnant woman requires a healthy, balanced diet and may need to take certain nutrient supplements. Breast milk has an ideal composition of healthy growth of a baby and contains antibodies to protect the baby against infections. Contraception can be achieved by mechanical, chemical, hormonal and surgical methods. Syphilis is a disease caused by a bacterium transmitted during sexual intercourse. HIV is a virus that causes AIDS and is transmitted during sexual intercourse. There are various ways that the spread of HIV may be controlled. IGCSE and O-Level Smart Biology M. Rashid Chatha 030046100457. Keywords: asexual, sexual, mitosis, binary fission, spores, vegetative propagation, tuber, axillary bud, adventitious root, runner, artificial propagation, grafting, scion, stock, tissue culture, clone, germination, perennation, gametes, zygote, haploid, meiosis, fertilization, fusion, diploid, anther, stigma, stamens, carpels, inflorescence, pollination, self-pollination, cross-pollination, radicle, plumule, cotyledons, integuments, tester, seed, fruit, pericarp, dispersal, growth, apical, meristem, cambium, cell elongation, differentiation, dormancy, auxinometer, spermatozoa, seminiferous tubules, testes, scrotal sac, epididymis, sperm duct, ejaculation, urethra, seminal vesicle, prostate gland, ovaries, oxytocin, prolactin, testosterone, copulation, penis, vagina, vulva, oviduct, implanted, placenta, umbilical cord, fetus, amnion, amniotic fluid, gestation, suckle, mammary glands. Menopause, contraception, birth, control, family planning, gonorrhea, syphilis, artificial insemination, fertility drugs, development, population size, ovum, ovulation, menstrual cycle, pregnancy, uterus, embryo, Grecian follicle, puberty, menstruation, secondary sexual characteristics, estrogen, corpus luteum, progesterone, pituitary gland, FSH, LH, AIDS. Glossary. AIDS, acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. A disease caused by a virus which damages the immune system so that victims are defenseless against many fatal diseases. Amnion, the fluid-filled sac that surrounds and protects the embryos of reptiles, birds, and animals. Anther, terminal part of a stamen which produces, and later releases, pollen. Asexual reproduction, reproduction involving one parent without the fusion of gametes. Calyx, collective name for the sepals of a flower. Cancer, a disease in which fast-growing abnormal cells invade and destroy healthy organs. Causes include chemicals in tobacco smoke, asbestos particles, and certain viruses. Carpel, female sex organ of a flower. Dormancy, a resting, inactive condition, in which metabolism almost stops. Fertility drugs, substances used to stimulate the development and release of ova from the ovaries of women who are infertile because ovulation has stopped. Fertilization. The fusion of male and female gametes during sexual reproduction, resulting in the formation of a zygote. Fetus, the embryo of a mammal at the stage of development in which the main features are visible. Gametes, cells involved in sexual reproduction, e.g. pollen grains, ova. Gametes fuse together at fertilization, forming a zygote which develops into an embryo. Graafian follicle, a fluid-filled space in a mammalian ovary containing a cell which develops into a female gamete, ovum. Menopause, the age at which women lose their ability to have children, become infertile, due to stoppage of menstrual cycle about the age of 45 years. IGCSE and O-Level Smart Biology M. Rashid Chatha 030046100457. Menstruation, breakdown and removal from the body of the lining of the uterus. This occurs if an ovum has not been fertilized. Nectary, an organ in a flower that produces the sugary fluid nectar. It aids pollination by attracting insects. Estrogen, female sex hormone, controlling conditions in the uterus before and during pregnancy. OVA, singular ovum, female gametes of animals. Ovary, an organ which produces female gametes, ova or ovules. Oviduct, a tube leading from a funnel-shaped opening near an ovary to the outside of the body. Ovulation, the release of an ovum from a ripe Graafian follicle. Ovule, the part of a carpel containing the female gamete, or egg nucleus. Ovules develop into seeds after fertilization. Pedicel, flower, stalk. Placenta, the organ through which the fetus of a mammal obtains food and oxygen from its mother's blood, and passes waste substance into the mother's blood. Pollen, male gametes of flowering plants. Pollination. Transfer of pollen grains from stamens to stigmas. Pregnancy, the period during which a female mammal carries a developing embryo in her uterus. Puberty, the stage of development at which men and women become sexually mature, i.e. able to reproduce. Semen, fluid produced by the testes of mammals. It consists of sperms and chemicals which nourish them and stimulate their swimming movements. Sepals, leaf-like structures at the outer region of a flower. They cover and protect the flower in bud. Sexual reproduction, reproduction usually involving two parents which produce gametes. These fuse together making a zygote which develops through an embryo stage into a new organism. Sperms, the male gametes of animals. Stamens, the male reproductive organs of a flower. The anthers of stamens produce pollen grains. Stigma, the part of a carpel to which pollen grains become attached during pollination. Testa, the protective outer covering of a seed. Testes. Male reproductive organ of animals producing gametes called sperms. Test tube baby, a baby produced from an ovum fertilized outside its mother's body, then returned to her womb to develop. Umbilical cord. IGCSE and O-Level Smart Biology M. Rashid Chatha 030046100457. A tube containing blood vessels connecting a developing embryo with its placenta. Uterus, a bag-like organ of the female reproductive system. It contains, protects, and nourishes the developing embryo. Vasectomy, a surgical operation in which men are made sterile by cutting or blocking the sperm ducts. Vegetative reproduction, a form of asexual reproduction in which outgrowths from a plant eventually separate and continue an independent existence. Venereal disease, VD diseases passed from person to person during sexual intercourse, e.g. syphilis and gonorrhea. Zygote, the cell which results from the fusion of a male and a female gamete, a fertilized egg. Hermaphrodite, an organism which possesses both male and female reproductive organs. Short MCQs with right answers. 1. The diagram shows part of a flower. What is the part labeled X? Stigma. 2. Which statement about the hormones involved in human puberty is correct? Estrogen causes breasts to develop in females. 3. The diagram shows the human female reproductive system. In which structure does fertilization usually occur? A. 4. What is the order of flower parts through which the pollen tube must grow to reach the egg cell nucleus during fertilization? Stigma, style, ovary, ovule. 5. Which diagram, showing the exchange of products between mother and fetus, is correctly labeled? IGCSE and O-Level Smart Biology M. Rashid Chatha 030046100457. 6. Which statement about sexual reproduction is correct? Fertilization is involved. 7. Which row about asexual reproduction is correct? 8. The diagram shows one way that a plant can reproduce. What is a feature of this type of reproduction? Only one parent is required. 9. Which human characteristics are inherited? 10. In a sperm cell, which structure contains enzymes that can digest the jelly coat of an egg cell? Acrosome. 11. The diagram shows a wind-pollinated flower. Which labels are the stigma and anther? X and Y. 12. What is the process when a pollen nucleus fuses with the nucleus in an ovule? Fertilization. 13. During puberty, secretion of hormones causes the development of secondary sexual characteristics. What is a characteristic caused by the secretion of testosterone? Deepening of voice. 14. Which type of organism causes AIDS? Virus. 15. The diagram shows cell X, which contains 24 chromosomes. It divides by mitosis to produce cells Y and Z. How many chromosomes does cell Z contain? 24. IGCSE and O-Level Smart Biology M. Rashid Chatter 030046100457. 16. What is a feature of asexual reproduction in a plant? The offspring will all have identical genotypes. 17. The diagram shows the parts of a flower. Which labeled part will develop into a seed following fertilization? 18. The diagram shows the 28 days of a typical menstrual cycle. The letters around the outside indicate different points in the cycle. 19. Which row shows the points in the cycle? 20. The diagram shows the arrangement of blood vessels in the uterus wall and placenta of a pregnant woman. What will increase in concentration in the blood as it flows from 1 to 2? Carbon dioxide. 21. The diagram shows some stages in cell division in a fruit fly. IGCSE and O-Level Smart Biology M. Rashid Chatter 030046100457. How many chromosomes are in cell Y and in cell Z? 22. Which statement applies to organisms that reproduce asexually? Offspring are genetically identical. 23. What is the function of the sepals of most flowers? To protect the flower buds. 24. Which diagram matches the hormones with their functions in preparation for pregnancy? 25. Which row describes the exchange of substances at the placenta? 26. What crosses the placenta from fetal blood to maternal blood in larger quantities than from maternal blood to the fetal blood? Carbon dioxide. 27. A natural method of birth control assumes that sperm live for 3 days after intercourse. Ovulation occurs between days 13 to 15 of menstrual and release over for 36 hours. On which day of the cycle should intercourse not result in pregnancy? Day 728. How does the rhythm method of family planning work? Intercourse is avoided near the time of ovulation. 29. In addition to a suitable temperature, what else is necessary for seed germination? IGCSE and O-Level Smart Biology M. Rashid Chatter 030046100457. Water and oxygen. 30. Which method of birth control works by preventing an egg from being released? Contraceptive pill. 31. An alligator has 32 chromosomes in each of the cell of its nose. How many chromosomes will an alligator's zygote contain? 32. 32. Which adoptive feature of sperm provides energy that enables it to swim? The mitochondria. 33. Which hormone is produced by the cells in the placenta of a developing fetus? Progesterone. 34. Which environmental condition is not needed for the germination of seeds? Carbon dioxide. 35. Which blood component is destroyed in people who are HIV positive? Lymphocytes. 36. After fertilization, how many chromosomes are in the zygote? Twice as many as in a sperm. 37. Some bean seeds are planted 2 cm below the surface of some soil in a tray. Which process will not occur as the seeds start to germinate? Photosynthesis. 38. What can be passed from one person to another during blood transfusion? HIV. 39. Which method of birth control is based on knowing the stage of a woman's menstrual cycle? Rhythm method. 40. What is involved in reproduction in both animals and plants? Ovary and embryo. 41. Which environmental condition is not essential for the germination of all seeds? Availability of light. 42. In which region does diffusion of materials take place between mother and fetus? Placenta 43. Which hormone maintains the lining of the uterus during pregnancy? Progesterone 44. In sexual reproduction in humans, why are sperm cells produced in much greater numbers than egg cells? The chance of one sperm cell reaching an egg is very small. 45. In which conditions will seeds germinate most quickly? Wet and warm 46. A teacher said a way to remember the difference between two groups of cells is many, minute and motile or few, fat and fixed. What are the groups of cells? Male and female gametes 47. What is an advantage for an organism of using asexual reproduction? Population increases rapidly. 48. The diploid number in ovisaries, sheep, is 54. How many chromosomes will there be in a zygote? Of this species? 54-49. When does fertilization occur in humans? When sperm and egg nuclei fuse 50. What is the function of many mitochondria in a sperm cell? To provide energy for movement 51. Which feature allows the sperm to dissolve the jelly coating of the egg cell? Acrosome 52. What is the consequence of HIV infection on the human body? Decreased lymphocyte numbers 53. Which hormone causes the lining of the uterus to become thick and glandular before ovulation? Estrogen 54. Which hormone is given to woman undergoing fertility treatment? FSH 55. What is a function of the placenta? Transfer of dissolved nutrients 56. Which structure is involved in the transfer of dissolved nutrients from the mother to the fetus? Placenta 57. Some men do not produce healthy sperm cells. A couple may choose to use the sperm of another man, a doctor, in order for the woman to get pregnant. Which procedure involves inserting sperm into the vagina of a woman from a donor? Artificial insemination, AI. 58. What are the symptoms in the different stages of syphilis? Which row describes a sign, symptom, and a treatment for syphilis in males? Sign, a pink rash on the body. Symptom, development of painful joints. Treatment, antibiotics 59. Which row correctly pairs a hormone with its function in the menstrual cycle? Hormone, LH, function, stimulates release of eggs 60. How are sperm cells different from egg cells in size and number? Size of sperm cell, smaller, and number of sperm cells, more 61. What are the features of human egg when compared with sperm? Size, larger, and number produced, smaller. IGCSE and O-Level Smart Biology M. Rashid Chatha 030046100457. 62. Pregnant women are advised to eat a diet with enough protein, calcium, and iron for the developing baby. Which needs are supplied by these constituents of food for the baby's bones, growing tissues, and red blood cells? Bones, calcium, growing tissues, protein, and red blood cells, iron 63. What are the symptoms in the different stages of syphilis? 1. ST stage, a single sore on the skin. 2. ND stage, fever, widespread skin rash. And 3rd stage, heart disease, dementia 64. Compared with the few days before ovulation, which hormone is released in increased quantities 3 days after ovulation? Progesterone 65. The table lists some processes which take place during reproduction in flowering plants and mammals. Which row is correct? Fertilization needed, implantation needed, pollination needed, flowering plants and mammals only, flowering plants only 66. In which condition will seeds germinate? Temperature, OC the only gas present, water 20, oxygen present 67. What are advantages of sexual and asexual reproduction? Advantages of sexual reproduction, advantages of asexual reproduction, more genetic variation, faster 68. Which row shows how one type of gamete is transported so that fertilization can occur in a flowering plant? Type of gamete, how transported, male in a pollen grain 69. When bases pair up in formation of DNA, what is one of the pairings? G equals C70. Which statement is true for sexual reproduction in plants? 2 types of gametes are involved 71. What passes down a pollen tube after pollination? Male nucleus 72. A mango tree can reproduce by seed and asexual reproduction. Trees produced by each of these methods produce mango fruits. When comparing these fruits genetically, what is the correct result? Fruit of trees grown from seeds. Fruit of trees produced by asexual reproduction. Non-identical. Identical. 73. How will the composition of pregnant woman's blood change as it passes through the placenta? Concentration of dissolved nutrients. Concentration of urea increases. 74. During childbirth, what must happen to the cervix and the uterus wall? Cervix-uterus wall dilates, contracts, and relaxes. 75. For samples of seeds germinated in different conditions of temperature and light, as shown in the table, sample temperature 0, C light 120%, 220%, 35%. IGCSE and O-Level Smart Biology M. Rashid Chatter 030046100457. For 5 present, which sample will show long and green leaves after 7 days? 276. What are characteristics of asexual reproduction? Fusion of gamete nuclei, genetic variety in the offspring. XX 77. Where are estrogen and progesterone produced during the menstrual cycle? Estrogen, progesterone. Ovary. 60. Which describes a human male gamete? Motile relative size compared to female gamete. Flagellum present. Yes, smaller. Yes. 61. Which row shows the adoptive features of sperm cells? Flagellum, jellycoat, mitochondria. Present, absent, present. 62. Which set of condition is required for seed germination? Oxygen, warmth, water. D63. Which plants are most likely to adapt successfully to a climatic change in their environment? Plants that are cross-pollinated. Transfer of pollen, from anther to stigma, and 2 plants required. Number 64. When a fetus in the uterus, what carries oxygen away from the placenta? The umbilical cord. 65. Which disease can be cured by antibiotics? Syphilis. 66. On which date is a woman most likely to ovulate, if the first day of menstrual loss was 1st February? The 14th of February. 67. Which disease is first recognized by painless ulcers, which can be anywhere on the body? Syphilis. 68. Where does the placenta allow the exchange of materials to take place between mother and fetus? Uterus wall. 69. Which substances are present in breast milk but not in bottled milk made from milk powder? Antibodies. 70. What is role of progesterone in the menstrual cycle? Maintains the lining of the uterus. 71. Which method of birth control gives some protection from syphilis and HIV? Condom. 72. What is true for syphilis? Cause, bacterium. Symptoms develop after 7 to 10 days and treatment, antibiotics. 73. Human gametes are different from each other. Which information about ovule is correct? Size, large, numbers released at one time, normally 1, movement, cannot move on its own. 74. Human gametes are different from each other. Which information about all sperms is correct? Size, large, numbers released at one time, millions, movement, can swim. 75. Men sometimes develop an enlarged prostate gland. How might this affect urination? By preventing the exit of urine from the bladder. 76. During sexual reproduction in plants, what will give rise to the greatest variation in the offspring? There are separate male and female plants. 77. What is an advantage of asexual reproduction for a population of following plants in the wild? Large numbers of offspring can be produced quickly. 78. What is an advantage, for an organism, of using asexual reproduction? IGCSE and O-Level Smart Biology M. Rashid Chatter 030046100457. Population increases rapidly. 79. Which statement about asexual reproduction would be a disadvantage for a farmer growing crop plants? All of the crop plants have the same risk of disease. 80. Which adaptive feature of sperm provides the energy that enables it to swim? The mitochondria. 81. In humans, why are sperm cells produced in much greater numbers than egg cell? The chance of one sperm cell reaching an egg is very small. 82. Which organ secretes progesterone? Ovary. 83. Which statement describes human male gametes? Small, numerous, and motile. 84. Which organ secretes the most progesterone during pregnancy? Placenta. 85. Which method of contraception could also help prevent the spread of HIV? Condom. 86. What must always be available to allow seeds to germinate? Water. 87. A human zygote is a diploid cell. Which statement about the human diploid cell is correct? The nucleus contains 2 sets of chromosomes. 88. Which statement about HIV is correct? It is transmitted through sexual contact. 89. What is an advantage of self-pollination? Isolated individuals can reproduce. 90. Where is progesterone produced? Ovary. 91. There are many reasons why a woman does not get pregnant. What can be treated by a drug that increases the secretion of FSH? Follicle not developing. 92. One type of contraceptive pill contains progesterone and estrogen. Some effects of the pill are listed. 1. Inhibit FSH production. 2. Inhibit LH production. 3. Inhibit thickening of the uterus wall, which prevent the development and the release of an egg cell. 1 and 2. 93. A haploid nucleus is defined as one that contains one set of unpaired chromosomes. 94. Which statement about the hormone FSH is correct? It stimulates the maturation of follicles. 95. Which description of cross-pollination is correct? The transfer of pollen grains from the anther of one plant to the stigma on a different plant of the same species. 96. Which cell contains a haploid nucleus? Sperm cell. 97. Asexual reproduction can be used to produce crops. Why might a disease be likely to spread throughout the whole crop? Crop plants are genetically identical. 98. In a comparison between the processes of artificial insemination, AI, and in vitro fertilization, IVF, which statement applies to IVF only? Human egg cells are harvested from the ovary. 99. Which row describes self-pollination? Pollen transferred from anther to stigma of a different flower on the same plant. A flower on a different plant of the same species. Same flower. Tick cross tick. 100. Scientists investigated the amount of genetic variation found within different crop plants. They grew large numbers of each crop and measured the genetic variation within the species of crop. The results shown in the table. Crop percentage genetic variation. Banana 0. P 65. Carrot 54. Which crop or crops have been produced by sexual reproduction? Pea and carrot only. 101. What is a diploid nucleus? A nucleus containing 2 sets of chromosomes. 102. Which disease is caused by a virus? AIDS. 103. Which feature is only found in the male gamete? Acrosome. 104. Some flowers can only be pollinated by specific insect species. What will happen if none of these insects are present? No seed produced. 105. Which hormone is used in contraceptive pills? Progesterone. IGCSE and O-Level Smart Biology. M. Rashid Chatha 030046100457. 106. After fertilization, how many chromosomes are in the zygote? Twice as many as in a sperm. 107. Which row shows the adaptive features of sperm cells? Flagellum, present, jellycoat, absent, mitochondria, present. 108. A wind-pollinated plant has which features? Small plants, large anthers, and a feathery stigma. 109. Which environmental factor is not always a requirement for seed germination? Light. 110. Some men do not produce healthy sperm cells. A couple may choose to use the sperm of another man, a donor, in order for the woman to get pregnant. Which procedure involves inserting sperm into the vagina of a woman from a donor? Artificial insemination, AI, 111. What is a function the placenta? Transfer of dissolved nutrients, 112. Which hormone causes the lining of the uterus to become thick and glandular before ovulation? Estrogen, 113. Some statements about asexual reproduction are listed. 1. Offspring are genetically identical. 2. Offspring are genetically different. 3. Only one parent is required. 4. Two parents are required. Which statements are correct? 1 and 3. Only 114. Which types of contact between humans can spread HIV? Blood transfusion and sexual intercourse, 115. Which statement explains why the hormone FSH is used in fertility treatment? It stimulates the large numbers of eggs for use in vitro fertilization, IVF. 116. A zygote has 10 chromosomes in its nucleus. Which row shows the number of chromosomes in the cells of this species? Body cells, sperm cells, embryo cells, 10, 5, 10. 117. Which method of birth control works by preventing an egg from being released? Contraceptive pills, 118. How will the composition of a pregnant woman's blood change when it passes through the placenta? Concentration of dissolved oxygen is decreased and concentration of urea is increased. 119. Modern agricultural methods often use artificial insemination, AI, to breed dairy cattle. Which statement describes the artificial insemination? Sperm is collected from a bull and frozen. The sperm is later inserted into the vagina of the cow. 120. Where is progesterone produced in the late stages of pregnancy? Placenta, 121. Some descriptions of different human cells are listed. 1. Contains 46 chromosomes. 2. Haploid nucleus. 3. Diploid nucleus. 4. Contains one set of unpaired chromosomes. Which descriptions are correct for the nucleus of a human gamete? 2 and 4, 122. Which hormone stimulates the release of an egg from the ovary during the menstrual cycle? LH. 123. Which adaptive feature is only found in females? Jellycoat. 124. Commercial plant growers use asexual reproduction to grow coffee plants which produce crops of coffee beans. What is a disadvantage of asexual reproduction? All plants are equally susceptible to the same disease. 125. Which statement about the human immune deficiency virus, HIV, is correct? HIV destroys lymphocytes. 126. Which statement about a diploid human cell is correct? There are 22 pairs of chromosomes and 2 sex chromosomes. 127. An advisor was presented with a list of statements for a discussion group with potential parents who were considering using in vitro fertilization, IVF, to start a family. Which statements about IVF are correct? 1. IVF is available to everyone. 2. IVF is 100% successful and therefore always leads to pregnancy. 3. IVF provides an opportunity for single parents to have a family. 4. IVF is not expensive and everyone can afford it. 5. Sperm or egg donation may be involved, which means the couple are not always the biological parents. 3 and 5, 128. What is likely consequence of HIV infection? 1. Decreased lymphocyte numbers. 2. Reduced active immunity. 3. Reduced passive immunity. 1 and 2, 129. Which row is correct for the type of cell? Type of cell, body, nucleus, diploid, sets of chromosomes, 2, 130. Which statement describes a structural adaptation of wind-pollinated flowers? They have long filaments so that the anther hang outside of the flowers. 131. Which statement about reproduction is correct? Some organisms reproduce asexually and sexually. 132. What will happen if a woman smokes during pregnancy? Nicotine can cross the placenta and affect the fetus. 133. Which sequence of structures does a pollen tube grow through in a flower? Stigma, style, ovary, ovule.